Folks, as some of you may know, I'm a former educator. Education has always meant the world to me. Why? Because an informed citizenry is necessary. Not only necessary, it is critical to ensuring a healthy democracy. But all of that right now is under attack, as is our entire country under the Trump regime. Folks, let's get into it. Education, as you know, is the bedrock of our democracy. So it makes sense then that Donald Trump wants to destroy it like he does everything else. You see, the actions being taken by his regime against Columbia University are a litmus test. Education is the bedrock to democracy. So it makes sense then that Donald Trump wants to destroy it. The actions being taken against Columbia University right now are a litmus test for other higher education institutions. Will they decide to protect their endowments or their students and faculty? According to this article in the New York Times, listen to this, folks. Columbia University agreed on Friday to overhaul its protest policies, security practices, and Middle Eastern Studies Department in a remarkable concession to the Trump administration, which has refused to consider restoring $400 million in federal funds without these major changes. The funny thing is, though, this is what folks really have to understand. It's not as if Columbia University signed a contract with the Trump regime that said that if they bowed to their demands, then that money would automatically reappear back in their budgets. No, what Columbia University is doing is obeying in advance and hoping and praying that by putting their students at risk, putting faculty at risk, denying them access to free speech and freedom of assembly, that somehow that money will reappear. And something tells me if Donald Trump doesn't pay his contractors and is known to default on all types of things, do we think he's really going to hold true to his word with this university or others? I don't think so. But before we dive in, dear friends, if you have not subscribed to this channel, I ask that you do and support independent media. You can like, comment, and subscribe and help the little algorithm fairies get this stream and episode into as many places as possible. So please do take the time right now, like, comment, and subscribe. All right, let's get back to our devolving country, shall we? Oh, dear friends, freedom of speech should have no caveats. And yet, under this fascist regime, it absolutely does. Earlier in March, one of the most chilling stories took place and is still ongoing. That is the case of former college graduate from Columbia University, Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil was kidnapped by ICE in front of his 8-month pregnant wife. He was kidnapped out of his residence, flown out of the state of New York to a detention center in Louisiana. What was his crime? Organizing protests to draw attention to the tens of thousands of Palestinians that have been killed by Israeli soldiers and the Netanyahu regime. Even Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that Mahmoud Khalil didn't necessarily break any laws. They just don't like his ideology. Well, now, unfortunately, Mahmoud Khalil isn't alone because right now, ICE is stalking 21-year-old Yun Sun Chug. The student, Yunsa Chung, is a legal permanent resident and junior who has participated, according to the New York Times, in pro Palestinian demonstrations at the school. The Trump administration is arguing that her presence in the United States hinders the administration's foreign policy agenda of halting the spread of anti Semitism. The beautiful thing about Yunsa right now, who you know has been in the United States since she was 7 years old, well, she's fighting back. That's right. She's suing the Trump administration right now. And according to her lawyers, she is suing them for trying to detain her, for denying her access to free speech, for assuming, right, that they are being targeted because of her values and her ideology as it pertains to her participation. Because, folks, she was only participating in a pro Palestinian protest. Unlike Mahmoud Khalil, she was not leading one. So, what message does this actually send? Well, the alarm bells are going off because what the Trump fascist regime is stating is that if you are a legal resident, green card holder, visa holder, well, guess what? The rules of America's Constitution, the right to assemble, freedom of speech, they don't apply to you. But there is something that Ms. Chung should know. She's not alone. Because right now, professors, faculty, students are gathering in an emergency rally to have their voices heard. Take a listen.
Now, the Trump administration is attacking Columbia as a target to coerce other universities as well to fall in line with the authoritarian regime of the Trump administration. This is the model that Trump will use and is using right now at other colleges and universities. And I want to tell you that this is what's happening right now at Cornell University as well.
So just like was stated at the top, Columbia is the litmus test. Donald Trump's fascist regime gets them to fall, and guess what? Their assumption is the others will fall in line as well. But the faculty and the students at Columbia University who held that emergency rally should also know they aren't alone either, because the American Federation of Teachers has also filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration for what they are referring to as illegal withholding of the $400 million in grants. The AFT is also gearing up to fight Trump. In a newly filed lawsuit, American Association of University Professors and the American Federation of Teachers say the Trump cuts set a dangerous precedent. The suit argues the Trump cuts also violate Congress's power of the purse. And this is what they said in their statement. This move represents a stunning new tactic, using cuts as a cudgel to coerce private institutions to adopt restrictive codes and allow government control over teaching and learning. This is fascism, folks. Cut and dry, black and white. We kept saying that we were moving into a fascist place, that we were backsliding in our democracy. No. We are here now. Because what the Trump regime is saying is that our institutions for higher learning are not supposed to be places of innovation and critical thinking any longer. They only want those students to think how they think, move how they move. Otherwise, they're going to deport them or throw them into camps, which is where Mahmoud Khalil still sits some weeks later. These fights against our higher education institutions will lead to brain drain. That's when those, the best and the brightest from all around the world, choose not to come to the United States for their higher education degrees. Usually, those students, they come, they stay, they build a life, and they invest in our country. What the Trump regime is setting up is ensuring that they won't come at all. Because who wants to come into this restrictive, oppressive place? These institutions have to understand that obeying in advance helps no one. Colleges and universities must use this as a teachable moment. If you bow to fascism now, the onslaught will never cease. They will take more and more until your institutions become unrecognizable. Fighting for freedom is our only path forward. That is it for me today here, friends, at Get Woke with Danielle Moody. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke and stay woke. Be well.